Hello, good evening and welcome to News 360 live from our studio here at Desanwe in Accra. I am Martin Asiedu Dartey.
And I am Judith Brown. Coming up this evening.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint,
Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal.
National Security set to conduct forensic analysis on large amounts of seized unspecified US dollar notes hidden in 12 20-foot containers.
Also this evening, Minister for Foreign Affairs assures President Mahama committed to diplomatic efforts to reintegrate Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso into the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS.
Also this evening, we'll tell you the story of a 19-year-old aspiring journalist in Okishan who is fighting fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva, an extremely rare genetic disorder.
And later tonight, we explore the health risks of using wastewater from open drains to irrigate crops sold in markets and restaurants.
And on the international front, China's tit-for-tat import taxes on some American goods set to come into effect on Monday, February 10, as the trade war between the world's two biggest economies escalates. Thanks for joining us. The details now.
We start from the news that broke a few hours ago. Now, the National Security is set to conduct forensic analysis on large amounts of seized unspecified US dollar notes hidden in 12 20-foot containers. Operatives from National Security on Saturday night busted and seized unspecified amounts of US dollars and Ghana cedis, including boxes of metal suspected to be gold bars. Komla Kluche reports that there is currently a manhunt for 4 unknown individuals linked to the seizures.
GPS code GW0095-2483, location Salperman near Amasaman in Gas South. A warehouse only noted for shipment with huge containers ferried in and out. Unknown to many, there was more to the containers and the shipment. 12 containers cleverly sealed with the currencies mostly in United States dollar denominations, hidden in wooden boxes filled with cement. The containers appearing to a hard charcoal carefully positioned in it with wooden barricade segmentation to prevent any notice of state security. Initial investigations show about 2 of the 20-footer containers were recently moved from the warehouse to an unknown location with intense tracking to retrieve it. A tip-off monitored closely by the NSC located the warehouse where the operations were orchestrated. At the reception of the warehouse, this shipping inspection documents were found with details of persons the NSC is investigating. At the back office of the reception was this military regalia with boots. An on-site assessment showed the regalia was fake. The facility had closed circuit camera monitoring with a watchtower mostly used by their security. The NSC, after uncovering large amounts of dollar bills, have mounted surveillance of the area. Directly opposite the warehouse is an uncompleted building thatched with counterfeit dollar bills rolls of Ghana cedi notes with carbon paper suspected to be used for the operations. Boxes full of metals suspected to be gold bars were also retrieved. 4 individuals are at large, with a ringleader only named as Alaji are being tracked from National Security Intelligence. The items are to undergo immediate forensic examination to determine its genuineness and street value. The NSC is also tracking the suspected containers believed to have been moved before the burst. Kamala Kluche, TV3 News, Accra.
Let's go to Zoom now. Dr. Victor Doke is a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Doc, good evening. Thank you for your time.
Hello, Martin. Good evening.
Right. It looks as though this interception by the national security of counterfeit money, and from the look of things, I mean, to the ordinary eye, we could see those look like real currency, dollars and Ghana cedis, and then some gold bars. How does this come to you, considering the fact that this was a swoop that has led to this kind of discovery?
Well, thank you very much. I think from the first-hand information we get, there is a criminal syndicate that has been in operation for some time, because as 2 of the containers, as per the narrations, has already left before the bust, and it tells you they have been in operation for some time now. And intelligence has what has led to this operation. However, with regards to the counterfeit dollars, and then if the forensic audit is done on the bars to ascertain whether it's real or fake, know their street value, then we can tell that these syndicates, criminal syndicates, have been in operation and have understood the dynamics of the security operations with regards to how, 1, containers come in, 2, how they evade checks and balances on our ports, right down to where they place the containers, and even with regards to the security in the internal, location of that warehouse. So I think this is a syndicate that has been in operation, that knows the terrain, that knows the in and outs, and may have some security personnel on the state side in their pocket, because to come as far as store these containers with the fake fund, the currencies and all of that in there, then you could tell that it is very, very, a large operation that has been going on.
And from the look, I mean, like you're indicating, this is pretty new to all of us, and clearly for the national security to have undertaken this, it meant that they have either had this tip-off for a while and monitored them to have chanced upon all these containers with the content therein. But how do you advise they move on from here, especially now that we are aware 4 people are on the run or are the key suspects whom the security agencies are looking for? How do they progress from here?
Right. I think now, henceforth, whatever they do should be on the quiet, because if you come out with information with regards to progress you've made, you are only informing what the syndicate or the 4 people on the run about your actions. Be on the quiet for some time, gather intelligence. Now, when the forensic audit is done, then you are sure to know that they will trace not only the source, but those who have been set to handle documentation of the container, right from when it landed down to what storage. And then also it would inform as to how many people, internal people, have been linked to this syndicate. Now, whatever they do has to be known to them. They should equally watch those who are in lead with regards to this operation. Keep it on the quiet. There has to be secrecy as much as possible, and then gather information, intelligence. And I think with that, within the shortest possible time, they should apprehend the 4 suspects and even the larger syndicate that is responsible for this.
Do you agree with those who say there is a clear intent of criminality, considering the fact that, first of all, the number of containers in question is quite huge, 20 in number, and some of them, when they opened it, had charcoal, bags of charcoal at the front. So when you open the container, you'd see the bags of charcoal first, and it had to take the intelligence officers to clear the charcoal before they found the fake currencies and gold bars. So there are perceptions that there is some clear intent of criminality here. Is that a perception you agree with?
Yes, I agree so. So that's what I use, the criminal syndicate, right? So there is a large group of people who are responsible for this. Now, when you have items coming, normally when you have some, secondhand goods in the front of the container, as you said, it takes what? Very responsible, officers and intelligence also to know that, no, it's not just what is in front, but then deeper examination. Now, after that examination is done, and then you get to realize that there are elements that are not supposed to be in there, then we can now conclude that there's criminality associated with this. There's no two ways about that. So, as we have ascertained, the criminal aspect with this, because then the counterfeit, and then probably if the gold bars are tested to be fake and we realize, then you can be rest assured that these syndicates are either using this, materials in the aspect of what swindling prospective investors, either in the country or those who are yet to come into the country. So this is what has been going on for some time, but they've been apprehended. The containers have been apprehended. We now need to know the faces behind these operations.
Right. Certainly one that we'll keep an eye on. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Dr. Victor Doke is a lecturer at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Pleasure talking to you.
Let's do some politics now. The National Democratic Congress, NDC, in the Ablekuma North constituency is demanding that the Electoral Commission rerun polls at the 62 polling stations whose pink sheets are under contestation. Now, the Electoral Commission has been unable to declare a winner in the December 7, 2024 elections because all the parties involved could not produce the pink sheets from 3 polling centers. Now, but the NDC at the vigil called on the Electoral Commission to take the necessary action to ensure residents have their parliamentary representative. Well, my colleague Stanley Nibleu has been observing the vigil. He joins us with more details on this. Stanley, we should be entering the 3rd month since the December 7 election. Still no parliamentary election, parliamentary candidate for the Ablekuma North constituency. Really, what is the atmosphere at this vigil currently? Stanley, if you could unmute for us so we can hear you. Right, we can hear you. It seems we are finding a bit of a challenge connecting to Stanley, of course. We'll work on that and get back to him much later. But in other news, Minister for Foreign Affairs Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa says President John Dramani Mahama is spearheading diplomatic efforts to reintegrate Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso into the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS. Now, the 3 Sahel nations announced their departure from ECOWAS in January 2024, citing dissatisfaction with the regional bloc's approach to governance and security issues.
Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso formally left the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, on January 29, 2025. Relations between the trio and the regional bloc soared after the July 2023 coup that ousted Niger's president, Mohamed Bazoum, prompting ECOWAS to demand his reinstatement and threaten military intervention. In response, Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso announced their exit in January and accused ECOWAS of failing to safeguard member states and of aligning too closely with foreign powers. The 3 nations then created the Alliance of Sahel States, severed military ties with long-standing Western partners such as the US and France, and turned to Russia for military support. The Sahel region has faced significant security challenges, including terrorism and insurgency, which have displaced millions and exacerbated the food crisis. Speaking on TV3's Key Point program on Saturday, February 8th, Foreign Minister Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa said President Mahama's appointment of a special envoy to engage with the leaders of the 3 countries is a move towards a diplomatic solution to the issue.
As you see President Mahama doing, already he's moving to make sure that Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso come back into the ECOWAS fold. He's appointed a special envoy. He's holding talks. Is leading the charge to make sure that within our region, all those who are adopting a posture of exclusion and wanting to isolate, isolation, he's bringing them back into the fold. Look at what he's achieved so far. I have no doubt that President Mahama will succeed in bringing back those who are breaking away.
Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa emphasized that Ghana's foreign policy under President Mahama will prioritize economic diplomacy and strategic partnerships.
Our diplomacy must create real impact on the ground. What are you bringing home? We are spending billions of taxpayer funds maintaining these 71 missions abroad. These 71 missions, they have to bring something home. Investors must come home. Industries must be open. It must lead to massive job creation. We must see the fruits of diplomacy. The fruits of the foreign ministry must be clear and impactful for everybody to see.
He added that the Mahama-led administration will assess the benefit of joining BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
If you look at the international forces now, you cannot ignore BRICS. You are talking about a combined market population of more than 40% of the total population of the world. Combined GDP of more than 27 trillion.
Absolutely.
And they have really put in place structures which are quite enticing. Any day, I will recommend that we should have more options. We should be building more relationships, forging more partnerships moving forward so that we are not restricted and limited.
On January 17, 2025, the bloc announced the formal admission of Nigeria as a partner country of the grouping. Nigeria becomes the 9th partner country of BRICS, joining Belarus, Bolivia, Cuba, Kazakhstan, Malaysia, Thailand, Uganda, and Uzbekistan.
Well, let's head back to the Ablekuma North Constituency, where the National Democratic Congress is currently holding a vigil. My colleague Stanley Niblew is joining us via Zoom with more details on that. Stanley, good evening. Can you tell us really what is the atmosphere at this vigil currently? Stanley, if you can hear me, if you can unmute for us so we can hear really what's happening there.
Okay, so Judith, right, so can you hear me?
I can hear you, please.
So when you come to Kwashiman, at the Kwashiman Market Valley, the NDP are not constituency, and other representatives from the region, they want from the central region. For instance, we have people from the Eastern region coming in to support the constituency to what they think right and built after the second revolution and it became a stalemate. The electoral commission has closed.
But it appears we cannot really hear what's happening on the ground. But of course, we'll definitely bring you a package of what really is happening on that vigil grounds. The NDC organizing a vigil in the Ablekuma North constituency. We know it's been almost 3 months since the December 7 election, and still there is no representative for the constituency. We're yet to find out really what will be the next action for the NDC as well as the Electoral Commission.
A special representative of the UN Secretary General and head of the United Nations Support Mission in Libya, Hannah Tete, has emphasized the importance of maintaining decorum in Parliament. The former Foreign Affairs Minister and Member of Parliament noted that members of Parliament should endeavor to reflect the title bestowed upon them as honorable. Here is a News Desk report.
The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagman, following the incident, set up an ad hoc committee to probe the matter. The minority has recused themselves from the committee, citing bias as the reason, and is demanding a constitution of the committee's membership.
I have written a memo to the Speaker as part of the due process that I want to follow, but the Speaker has directed that it shouldn't be a public hearing. And I emphasize this because those were the orders of Mr. Speaker. The audiovisual can be procured, I've procured it. We can check it. That is exactly what Mr. Speaker says. So I don't understand why there is this public hearing.
But the chair of the committee, Emmanuel Bejra, has denied the claims of bias.
That shows the hypocrisy of our colleagues, because if Honorable Abena was with us yesterday and today they are singing different tunes, the best judge are Ghanaians. One of them, actually, who now you are alleging that he has had a press conference, was with us here. He even asked questions, and today he's same person. I mean, how best will I describe the person if he can tell us? Yesterday he called me. I saw the call was way engaging that he would not be able to make it, and then all of a sudden, without talking to me, you went on air that I've been biased.
Speaking with Johnny Hughes on 3FM Sunrise Morning Show on Friday, February 7, a former member of Parliament for Iwutu Sinya, who is also a former Foreign Minister, Hannah Tete, stressed the importance of upholding the decorum that should accompany an institution.
I've seen reactions in many parliaments on this continent.
Right.
So, in as much as I would agree with you that the behavior exhibited over the last couple of days leave something to be desired. I also have to say that I've seen worse, but that we're not competing in that direction. I think it's important to maintain the decorum that is associated or should be associated with the institution, because that is what makes the institution worthy of respect both domestically and externally as well.
Right.
So I hope that elected members of parliament who are called honorable will remember that it's not just a title, it's a description of a desired behavior.
The former foreign minister also urged the new foreign minister, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa, to build bridges with other countries in the execution of Ghana's foreign policy.
It would be useful to him to learn as much as possible, right, about the perspectives of our neighbors, of our region, and also of our key allies, and who they also see as our competitor countries. Because it's not all about Ghana. And so it's important for us to understand what our strengths are, but be humble enough to admit our shortcomings and see how in the execution of our foreign policy and in the way in which we reach out to achieve our foreign policy priorities, we think about how we address that in a constructive way. And with other African countries in a way that is collaborative and not competitive. And the fact that we want to collaborate, we should understand that that doesn't mean that they want to. Because to the extent that any country sees us as a threat, they're looking to be able to project themselves in a way that makes them the better partner, or seen as a more effective investment destination, or seen as a more effective security partner. So I think it's important not to be naive.
The Majority Chief Whip Roxanne Nelson Dapiamepo says the low attendance from majority members of Parliament has been due to challenges some new members face in securing accommodation. On Friday, February 7, the House was forced to suspend sitting due to the lack of quorum. The Majority Chief Whip Roxanne Nelson Dapiamepo spoke on hot issues with Kemini Amano.
Numbers that are not coming have been largely on my side. And the explanation I got to know is that some have been allocated their offices. They are trying to set up. Some too are trying to sort out their accommodation matters. You know, as I talk to you, I have about 181 new MPs in Accra.
Okay.
They are trying to settle. So a lot of my new fresh MPs, this is the first time they are coming to live in the capital. So there are logistical difficulties.
Yeah, but how long does it take for those logistical difficulties
normally
to be dealt with?
It takes about 2 months to sort those things out.
So we should expect that for 2 months, our MPs will not be going to...
No, not that you should expect that for 2 months.
Right.
But it's getting better. I'm sure the accommodation matters are being resolved. Office allocations, there are still, some offices are still being painted as I speak.
I see.
Okay.
I see.
We also have clear difficulties. Some offices, the air conditioners are not working on about 3 floors. I used to be on the 5th floor. My aircon didn't work for like 2 years. So I had to go in for a standing fan, which I used for the past 2 years. If anybody who knew my office knew that I had a standing fan, it was because my aircon wasn't working. So some of these people, they had some difficulties, but I can assure you that from about the end of this month, things will stabilize. People have their offices. Attendance will be better. Accommodation, residential issues will be resolved.
A 19-year-old aspiring journalist, Enoch Eshan, is fighting against the clock as his body slowly turns into bone. He cannot sit and has to stand most of the time. Portia Gabor reports that Enoch's courageous story sheds light on the harsh realities of living with an extremely rare genetic disorder known as fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. There's more in this report.
Enoch Eshan was not born this way. At 19, most young people are bursting with energy and possibility, but for Enoch Eshan, life has taken a dramatically different turn. A rare genetic condition known as fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva is progressively turning his muscles, tendons and ligaments into bone, robbing him of the simple act of sitting.
So it started with this scar at my back, at the head of my back, and it came into a ball form. Then my dad went in for a herbalist, and he performed some surgery in the house, not requiring any special tools, scientific tools for the surgery. So we did a home experiment in the house, and the herbalist cut off that ball. And that was the start of everything. I'd say the doctors didn't know anything about it. It was new to them. So as we went, they were prescribing drugs for us to take in, of which we weren't having any benefits from it. So I think at a point, 2017 or 2018, that I myself went with my older brother to the hospital, which is Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. And I think one doctor told us, what he said was that the name of the illness is FOP, and it has no cure at the moment.
Enoch, a level 100 communication studies student at the University of Cape Coast, is forced to stand for every waking moment. He even needs help to sleep.
I had a dream. I wanted to be a journalist, and to further my education, I have to make sure I've made it to university. So whatever that it took for me to get here, I had to make sure I've done it. And I'm finally here. I'm hoping unto God that everything will be fine so that I can complete and make my father proud.
He says stigma and discrimination are bigger diseases he has to confront on a daily basis.
After SHS, I got fed up of how if you step out, people look at you as if you are an alien. They think you aren't part of them or you're a different person. I will see the green paper, which is the
According to the National Organization for Rare Disorders, fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva is an extremely rare genetic connective tissue disorder characterized by the abnormal development of bone in areas of the body where bone is not normally present. The abnormal development of bone at multiple soft tissue sites leads to stiffness in affected areas, limited movement, and eventual fusion of affected joints. Despite the challenges and setbacks, the aspiring journalist is determined to stand tall against the odds.
In my absence, I would want people to know that whatever that you are doing, make sure you put smile on people's face and not forgetting about yourself too. Because if you smile, then others too will smile.
His mother is hopeful that Enoch will get treatment.
Now we live normal life today. Mobia tum okoba. Say ahozini bi wo hotuma obotum wa yedan kono ze.
The ability to sit is often taken for granted, but Enoch is grateful for just being alive. He has one wish.
So I'll need support in every aspect of my life, my education, my career, my music career, my health, my everything. I just need your support. Oh, Amirawa, Papa, and you so ninara, Sano.
Portia Gabo, TV3 News.
Yehovah, betray.
A very sad story there, but moving on, the vegetables you eat could be poisoning you. Some farmers are using wastewater from open drains contaminated with fecal matter and bacteria to irrigate crops sold in markets and restaurants. With cholera cases rising, this silent threat is closer to you than you think. Godwin Asiedu looks at the hidden danger that may be sitting on your plate.
A small vegetable farm along the banks of a polluted drain in Accra, 49-year-old Peter Kofi Ahen bent over a row of vegetable plants, carefully watering them with water scooped directly from the stagnant drain beside his farm. Murky, dark and filled with floating debris. He knows the water is dirty, but he says he has no choice.
This water flows, so we believe it's clean. I have customers in Medina markets, Accra, and other market centers.
For over 2 decades, this has been his way of farming, using wastewater to grow the vegetables that end up in homes, restaurants, and markets across the city. Here, the stench hits you before the sight does.
This is not just a drain, it is an open sewer filled with human waste, plastic and all kinds of filth. And yet, just a few steps away, farmers are using the same contaminated water to grow vegetables that end up in the markets and on our plates. This water carries bacteria, fecal matter and even toxic chemicals, making it a breeding ground for deadly diseases like cholera. But for farmers who have no access to clean irrigation sources, this is their only option. You can clearly see that I'm engulfed with filth, human excreta over there, tissue papers being used by people who come here to defecate, and this is just alarming and concerning. The smell here is horrendous.
35-year-old Abdallah Hussein is one of those farmers. His lettuce is just days away from being harvested, yet he still relies on the same contaminated water. But Kofi and Abdallah are not alone. Across Ghana's capital, Accra, and other urban farming communities, vegetable growers depend on wastewater from gutters, drains, and even open sewers. With limited access to clean irrigation sources, they turn to the easiest and cheapest alternative, one that consumers are largely unaware of. To determine just how dangerous this water is, we visited the Water Research Institute's microbiology lab. The research team was ready, and together we headed to the drain to collect samples. Here, Some farmers had already connected generators to pump water for irrigation. With the samples collected, it was time for testing.
Scientists are about to analyze just how contaminated it really is.
After 18 hours, the results were ready.
Generally, you see that they are made up of pink and blue colonies. The pink colonies are generally bacteria that are from the environment. But those ones which are blue are indicative of fecal contamination in the water. There is a possibility if the person who discharges feces into the water is a carrier of typhoid, bacteria for typhoid, cholera, or any other gastrointestinal disease, then the water will be contaminated. And its use on vegetables may cause the disease of the person who originally carried that bacteria. We can tentatively say so that the water is dangerous.
The water that we have with these farmers, urban farmers, using to irrigate vegetables, yes, majority of them, they are contaminated with fecal matter. Other research that are being conducted have shown that they are contaminated with pathogens at different levels.
At Malata Market, one of Accra's busiest food hubs, traders proudly display fresh produce, lettuce, cabbage, spring onions and carrots. Shoppers, unaware of where these vegetables come from, bargain to the best price, picking up bundles that may end up tainted with fecal matter and harmful bacteria. Public health expert Professor Richmond Okai Ayite warns that the consequences of consuming such produce can be severe.
Basically, when you eat food that is contaminated with microorganisms, it causes all kinds of GIT conditions. Those are the conditions that are relating to from the mouth to the stomach and all the challenges with conditions like diarrhea and fever, and sometimes it can be deadly.
Ghana has already seen the consequences. The Ghana Health Service reports that cholera cases are rising, with 14 deaths recorded in the central region alone. Hospitals are treating more patients with severe diarrhea and dehydration. Despite the health risks, farmers say they are caught between survival and safety.
That one there, like, is better. Just some people will.
The water is better, but the problem is that some houses have connected their wastewater directly to the drain.
That water is spoiled here.
Regulatory agencies have long struggled to control the practice. While food safety laws exist, enforcement is weak and authorities often turn a blind eye. Experts say the solution lies in providing safe irrigation alternatives and educating farmers about the risks. Some initiatives, like wastewater treatment facilities for agricultural use, have been introduced in small pilot projects, but widespread change remains elusive. For now, the burden falls on consumers to protect themselves. Professor Ayite advises thorough washing and disinfection of vegetables before consumption. Back at the farm, the farmers continue their work, watering crops with wastewater, just as they have done for years. Soon, these vegetables will be harvested, packed into trucks and transported to markets across the city. For many Ghanaians, the danger is invisible, but it sits right there on their plates. Godwin Asiedu, TV3.
Well, so the last story just watched, raised concerns about cholera and several other connected diseases. In a related development, though, we are told that 2 persons have been confirmed dead from cholera, this time around in the Asiedu district of the Central Region. As of Saturday, the 8th of February, the region had recorded 69 confirmed cholera cases. The latest 14 cases were recorded on Saturday, the 8th of February, from the Asiedu and Agona districts. Out of the 69 confirmed cases, 64 were admitted, 6 were severe, 27 were moderate, and we are told that 36 were mild. 6 districts have so far recorded cases, with the Asiedu district topping the chart. with 38 out of the 69 total confirmed cases. Healthcare workers are still fighting a desperate battle to contain the spread of the disease following the steady spike in cases across the region, while residents remain anxious over the development. The Ghana Health Service will be embarking on another vaccination exercise against the outbreak in the Greater Accra region later this week.
Still on health, the Upper West region has seen an increase in cerebrospinal meningitis cases from 42 to 60, with 14 deaths so far. Let me take you through the age distribution regarding the outbreak so far. And basically, with that, you can see that the age-sex distribution, we have one male confirmed with the disease. He is 60 and above years, and for that same age group, we just have 0 females within that, contracting that disease. The age gap between 50 to 59 years is just 3 males and 1 female. For the age gap 40 to 49 years, we have 2 males contracting the disease and 2 females as well contracting that disease. For 30 to 39 years, that age gap, we have 4 males contracting the disease and just 1 female contracting that disease. For the age gap 20 to 29 years, we have 8 males and 7 females. 10 to 19, we have 12 males and 9 females, and below 10 years, we have 2 males and 0 females. So you can clearly see that the age gap between 20 and then 10 years have quite more people contracting the disease. Now, let me take you through some measures which have been taken by authorities to contain the outbreak of meningitis in the Upper West regions, and you'd see that on your screen quite shortly. And these are the ongoing actions. Public sensation or sensitization have been stepped up, emphasizing on prevention and early reporting. Also, the Director General authorizes free treatment for suspected cases, irrespective of health insurance status of clients. A National Rapid Response Team has been dispatched by the Director General to support regional response. There are still some more actions that have come up, and we'll see that on your screen shortly as well. These are some of the actions that have been done for the outbreak of CSM. There's also clinical audit of latest deaths conducted to understand the underlying causes. The DJ has provided some medicines to support effective management of cases and financial resources for capacity building of staff. The Minister of Health and the AJDJ will visit the region this week to assess the ongoing response. So these are some of the ongoing actions as regards to the outbreak of cerebrospinal meningitis in the Upper West region.
Now, unhygienic handling of meat and the poor condition of some slaughterhouses create a conducive environment for zoonosis and other forms of meat contamination. But have you ever wondered where and how your daily meat protein is prepared? There's more in this report by Christopher Mwako, who visited a slaughterhouse in Salaga and has come through with this report.
Slaughterhouses or abattoirs are the link between the inspected and approved saved meat and the consumer. Slaughterhouses also constitute a critical unit in the supply chain from which foodborne pathogens can disseminate along the processing and distribution lines. Hygienic practices used for handling meat in this place determine the health of the meat consumed. But a visit to the slaughterhouse in Salaga, capital of the East Gonja municipality of the Savannah region, leaves much to be desired. At exactly 5:30 a.m. on Monday, February 3, the butchers were already at the slaughterhouse waiting for the arrival of the cows to be slaughtered. Finally, the tricycle carrying the first cow arrived. In few minutes and without any veterinary inspection of the cow, the animal was killed and skinned ready for the market. However, the hygienic state of the slaughterhouse leaves much to be desired. Dirty environment, peeling floor, and a dilapidated structure characterized the slaughterhouse. Obviously, one thing was certain: the contamination of the meat being prepared for consumption.
This is the place that we work. We are many here. More than 100 people work here. This is the place that we find our daily bread. We even spend here. No water. The environment is not good. Even the roofing is no more here. We are here working always. When you see our environment, as you can see, all of the workers are here. Sometimes it's pumping that we're supposed to go and fetch water and bring it here for us to work here small.
Though the situation is undesirable for the butchers, they have little to do.
As you can see, look at the gutter. Here, no water for us to even work inside. Here, we those working here, we are those who fetch water to bring it here. Now the water is no more. The pipe is not flowing. The roof is not there. The environment is very, very, very dirty. We can't even complain. Now, people have been complaining that any sickness comes from them is from the animals. It's here that we do the work. Once the environment is very dirty, when we work, we carry sickness from this place to them.
Okay, Salgaya last person. The whole abattoir. Salgaya last. Okota maranya sanity. Bimbala zen sanity. Yajiaya sanity. We have Salga. Even so can
The dilapidated state of the slaughterhouse is a cause of worry to consumers. This place is very terrible, to say the least. Our complaints to the veterinary service and the assembly has yielded no positive results, but we have no option. Most of the meat-borne bacterial outbreaks are usually attributed to contamination along the supply chain due to poor handling processes. Good hygienic practices at slaughterhouses and distribution at retail shops are key points in ensuring the quality and safety of meat to safeguard public health.
I'm sure many of you are aghast at some of the visuals you have seen. And we started this series yesterday looking at how foods we consume at home are processed right from source up until it gets onto our plates at home. So, you know, you want to be part of this conversation so we get the content we consume at home clean and healthier than some of these images we've seen. You're still watching News 360. Stay with us. We have more for you after the break.
Famous fan Nana Pole, who met his untimely death in Wastewater during a Ghana Premier League game against Wastewater man. Joining us live from the venue is Richard the Champion from Akuma Sports. Now, Richard, if you can hear me, kindly tell us what has been happening around the Baba Yara Stadium.
Hear you. Let me welcome all viewers to the Kumasi Baba Yara Sports Station, where this evening, Asante Kotoko, as a club, is holding a night of vigil for their departed supporter, Francis Nana of Import, popularly known as Nana Pole. The program actually started almost an hour ago, and everybody who matters in Asante Kotoko, with the exception of the right person, is here. So the management team is led by Asiedu, who happens to be the chairman of the interim management committee. He's here together with both James Bishoppian, a member of the INC, and then the newly appointed public relations director of Asante Kotoko, Mr. Sapo. Almost everybody is here. The entire Asante Kotoko technical team, led by Oscar, the head coach, is here. And then the playing body, led by their captain, Cedric Asari. They are all here. And I can tell you that justice is going to play. Goalkeeper, Hamas, and then Patrick Asiedu. Yes, you can't just wipe away their tears. They've been trying since the program started. Reason is that they are very close to Nanapole, who was murdered in cold blood in Slaughterhouse, exactly a week ago today, when Asante Kotoko traveled to play the 19th in Ghana Premier League. So, yes, the place is almost packed, and I can tell you that the management of Kotoko are.
Well, thank you, Richard the Champion, for the update from the Babayara Sports Stadium. But moving on, former Ghana midfielder Sule Muntari says the decision by the Black Stars technical team to hand Kudus the captain's armband in Ghana's 2025 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers was completely uncalled for, as it added additional pressure on Ghana's go-to guy. Kudus was captain for the doubleheader against Sudan, where the Black Stars lost 4 points.
Kudus, no matter what, he's going to get his captain. He's going to be the captain of the national team one day.
Yeah.
Let it be smooth for him.
Yeah.
Don't just rush him. He doesn't, Captain Ukra, he doesn't even need the band, but he commands on the field all the time.
Yeah.
You get what I mean?
Yeah.
He's all the team.
The football does the talking.
Basically, all of us, the whole Ghana, Kudus fire and all their team in Kong. Then he plays with us.
Yeah.
So, what's your problem?
Yeah.
You want to put Opese Ohano. No, I'm not saying Obehano for the captain. Don't let him be. Let him just enjoy his football.
Yeah.
Kudus has only potential yet. This is just getting.
Yeah.
That guy, he's just amazing. He get his Onimdeoya, Onino, he will be like deadly.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to England, where Liverpool's quest for a quadruple came to a crashing halt as they were dumped out of the FA Cup with a 1-0 defeat by Championship strugglers Plymouth. Ryan Hardy
From killing Mbappe earlier this season, so 3 of the 4 kicks he's faced this year. Huge moment now for Plymouth Argyle, and in from Ryan Hardy.
is Billy Shen. Up next is international news.
Well, let's bring you all the updates on the international front.
We begin from Asia, where China's tit-for-tat import tax on some American goods are set to come into effect on Monday, February 10. This comes as the trade war between the world's 2 biggest economies escalated, and US President Donald Trump threatens to hit more countries with tariffs. Beijing announced the plan on 4th February, minutes after new US levies of 10% on all Chinese products came into effect. From 10th February, China will charge a 15% border tax on imports of US coal and liquefied natural gas products. There is also a 10% tariff on American crude oil, agricultural machinery and large engine cars. On Friday, February 7, President Trump said he was planning reciprocal tariffs on other nations in the coming days as he aims to reshape the U.S. global trade relationships. Last week, Chinese authorities launched an anti-monopoly probe into technology giant Google, while PHP, the U.S. owner of designer brands Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger, was added to Beijing's so-called unreliable entity list. China has also imposed export controls on 25 rare metals, some of which are key components of many electrical products and military equipment. To Southern Africa, where Sam Nujoma, the freedom fighter who led Namibia to independence from apartheid South Africa in 1990 and served as its first president for 15 years, has died. He was 95. Njoma's death was announced Sunday by current Namibian President Ngolo Mbumba, who said Njoma died on Saturday night after being hospitalized in the capital, Windhoek. Njoma was revered as a charismatic father figure who steered it to democracy and stability after long colonial rule by Germany and a bitter war of independence from South Africa. Njoma was the last of a generation of African leaders who brought their countries out of colonial or white minority rule that included South Africa's Nelson Mandela, Zimbabwe's Robert Mugabe, Zambia's Kenneth Kaunda, Tanzania's Julius Nyerere, and Mozambique's Samora Machel. To the Middle East, where Israel troops have withdrawn from the Netzarim corridor, a military zone cutting off the north of the Gaza Strip from the south. Hundreds of Palestinians began returning to northern Gaza following the pull-out of into scenes of utter destruction. The Israeli withdrawal is in line with the Israel-Hamas ceasefire agreement of 19 January, under which 16 Israeli hostages and 566 Palestinian prisoners have so far been freed. By the end of the first stage of the ceasefire in 3 weeks' time, 33 hostages and 1,900 prisoners are expected to have been freed. Israel says 8 of the 33 are dead. We wrap up today's international news back in Asia, where North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has said an elevated U.S. security partnership with South Korea and Japan poses a grave threat to his country. Kim Jong-un has thus vowed to further bolster his nuclear weapons program. Kim have previously made similar warnings, but his latest statement implies again that the North Korean leader will not likely embrace President Donald Trump's overture to meet him and revive diplomacy anytime soon.
And that's how we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you so much for watching. I am Martin Asiedu Dartey.
And I am Judith Brown. Thanks for joining us and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Great new design.